Hey everyone, it's May, and welcome to another episode of The May Lee Show. I'm glad you can join me again. And if you're new to the show, welcome. Thank you for tuning in. Listen, I'm actually doing something for the first time. I'm shooting part of this episode at night. Right now it's 8 p.m., and I've never shot any part of the show at night. Usually I do interviews and shoot the rest of the show during, at some part of the day. Uh, but I'm doing this at night because I my schedule lately has been so insane and so busy. It's been a little overwhelming, actually. Part of the reason is because, as many of you know, I'm an adjunct professor at USC at the Annenberg School of Journalism, and so because of COVID, of course, the summer program for graduate students usually is 7 weeks long in normal circumstances. And then we go into the fall. Well, because of COVID, we had to shrink everything down to 4 weeks. So it's been 4 intensive weeks of trying to cram in all of this, the coursework and, everything that the students are supposed to be doing. We're in the final week right now. So it's just like, we're literally like struggling to the finish line. And so it's been crazy. And I've been trying to keep up with that with the students, doing the show and then doing a couple of other projects. So I'm exhausted. Truth be told, I'm exhausted. Seriously, I'm haggard. I'm feeling pretty spent. So therefore, that's why, yeah, I had no other time to shoot this part of the show tonight at 8 p.m. But the silver lining is because it's 8 p.m., I thought, well, that means I can have a glass of wine, right? While I do this show, maybe? I don't know. I'm gonna make up the rules. Yes. I say yes. So cheers. Hang on. Okay, I have a glass of red wine for those of you who are listening. Anyway, so things have been really busy, but also obviously the world is still in turmoil. COVID is still going strong. There's even more division and protests on all sides. Everything has become politicized. Everything is being argued. Karens and Kevins are going wild everywhere. Xenophobia against Asians is still going strong. Uh, you know, Fighting for Black lives is still a fight to be fought. And so, I think that's part of it as well. We're all feeling overwhelmed by everything. And I've been saying to friends that, yeah, I have to say, I do feel like my ends are starting to fray a bit more because we're still in this perpetual state of quarantine for those of us who are responsible, right? For those of us who are responsible. In fact, I posted something on Instagram the other day, and a lot of you, I think, liked it because it was so accurate in what it said. I'm going to read it actually for those of you who didn't see it. It says, aspects of our COVID exhaustion are due to the reality that many of us are carrying the weight of others' responsibility. Many go about their lives unencumbered with any feeling of social responsibility, then feel justified in their carelessness, at least partially protected by the Herculean efforts of others. Not only are we carefully navigating a context foreign to us, sacrificially bearing a collective burden, we have to watch those efforts devalued by those who then pretend their carelessness is justified. We're holding a societal umbrella in a downpour. They're laughing and pretending it's not raining because they're not wet. It's exhausting. And this was from the subversive lens. Yeah, exhausting. Totally exhausting. So I think a lot of us are feeling this way, including myself. But what can we do? We have to keep on keeping on, right? I know that sounds silly, but there are days when I'm like, what's the point? But then I say to myself immediately, no, there's a point. There's a point. You got to keep doing what you're doing because it matters. I'm thinking that after this episode airs this week, I might just take a little bit of a break just to get my bearings, just to kind of chill just a little bit so I can de-stress and decompress a little bit. So I'm thinking maybe I need to take a vacation or take a break. Maybe I'll go to Yosemite. yeah, Yosemite might be nice, right? Isn't it lovely there? Um, or maybe I'll go to Thailand. Yeah, I love Thailand. Been many times. Could go to Thailand again. Um, sorry, I just, I had to get that in there because it's so crazy, right? I mean, yeah, I have nothing more to say about that. All right, so this episode, I've got to I've got to give you a little background. This episode, I actually shot it back in March when COVID was just starting to get a little bit more serious, but we weren't in lockdown yet. We weren't in shelter in place yet. So we were actually still able to take the show, on location or, whatever worked out for the guest. And so we went and met the guest, and the guest is James Lee, the singer, the Korean American singer, who is just a doll. Love him, just the nicest guy, sweetest guy. And so we did this interview back in March, so it was a while ago. And I kept on thinking, I want to air this. I need to release this episode, but obviously things just started getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And at one point, I contacted James to say, hey, let's do a little bit of an update to this interview so I can tack it on to the old interview. So at least we get a little bit of new information. So we did this short interview, and this was when it was the height of Black Lives Matter and all the protests. And we talked about that and how that was disturbing him so much. And, it was obviously affecting us all. But what I learned about James is that his brother-in-law is African American, and he has nieces who are half Black and half Korean. So he was talking about how this was so much more personal to him and his family. So I thought that was fascinating. So he was really affected by the whole BLM movement and what was happening in George Floyd. And so I saw yet another side to James, this really kind of very emotional, but he was showing his frustration, his anger, but really wanted to do something and make a difference. And so it was a great conversation. But again, because I wasn't able to even release that part that would have been attached to the old interview because we waited again too long, because again, the world was blowing up. Was like, okay, well, that's going to be dated. So now I decided, okay, I'll just do a new introduction to the interview, run the interview, and then give you guys a little update at the end about what James is up to. But that's why because the interview itself, and I'm not just saying this, the interview itself is so good. It really is. You're going to be fascinated by what James says and shares. You will be captivated. And I guarantee you're going to listen to this entire interview. One note, when I first did the interview, I did a brief intro. And at that time, again, it was early March. And so I was sort of sharing my thoughts before I started the interview with James. And I was saying, this COVID thing is getting a little bit more serious and it's scary. And xenophobia against Asians is happening more often. And this is what I said. I wrote down my own quote. I said, well, maybe by the time this episode airs, things will have gotten better with COVID and xenophobia. Maybe we will have made some progress by then. Famous last words. Well, still hoping. So anyway, so here's the episode with James Lee, singer, songwriter, with an incredible story of finding success in unique ways, but then dealing with an unexpected tragedy that changed his life forever. Listen to this interview. You will really, really be moved, and I think you'll really enjoy it. Okay, so here it is. Okay, on to something much better and much more inspirational. My guest today in the studio, I call it a studio. We're really in a conference room right now, but it's our studio today, is James Lee.
Hello.
Hi, James.
Hi, Maylee.
Good. So James is a singer, songwriter, musician. He has an extraordinary story of how he came about into the K-pop world, but then went out on his own. And a big struggle that you went through because of a freak accident.
Right. And actually, I went through that accident when MERS just started happening.
Oh, really?
And so, yeah.
So you're this is like a deja vu all over again.
Yeah, it's hitting me in a way that it's like I'm viscerally, is that a word?
Yeah.
I'm like instinctively like fearful of the repercussions. Cause I remember, if people don't know, I was in 2015 on June 10th, I had an accident in Itaewon, Korea.
Yep.
An restaurant front, like the front part of a restaurant collapsed and my hand was nearly cut off and it was reattached after 5 surgeries.
Yeah.
However, when the accident happened, I was in a hospital right on the cusp of Hannam-dong and Itaewon, and they weren't letting people in because of MERS. And so my manager at the time kicked the doors open and said, this guy needs to get in there because my hand was black at the time. I was carrying my hand into the hospital.
I mean, it was almost completely severed, right?
Correct.
At the time?
It was attached by skin.
Yeah.
And so I was holding it.
I mean, James, you actually posted a photo of that, right? And it's, you guys out there, I mean, if you haven't seen it, I mean, if you can't take gruesome things, I don't advise looking at the photo, but you did post it because why? You wanted people to know how bad it was? I mean, tell me the thought behind that.
Well, to be honest, the photo that I posted wasn't even a bad one.
It was, okay, because it's pretty bad.
Yeah, the bad one is when it initially happened because it's just completely just hanging off.
Oh my God.
And I didn't want to post that because at the time, I was promoting with my band and I have fans that were based. I noticed when I went to Japan or Malaysia to tour, I had fans that cared so much about our health and our happiness that I thought I would just crush them. And I didn't even want to tell my mom at the time.
Really?
Right, because there's nothing she could have done about it. So I was...
And Korean moms worry a lot, as we know.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's just...
So going back to the fact that happened during the MERS crisis, so this must be sort of a negative association to you in terms of the reminder of that time.
Right, I'm having kind of flashbacks and I'm afraid to go, like, honestly, I hate hospitals because I spent 3 months there, 3 months inside of a hospital during my accident.
Wow.
Inside of an amputee hospital, nonetheless. However, seeing all that's happening right now with the coronavirus, it's just, there's a sense of helplessness. And when people go to the hospital, they might even get, the hospitals themselves seem like the worst place to go at this time because so many sick people are there.
Right.
But it's a kind of a helpless situation.
Yeah.
I don't want to keep talking about like the helplessness of the situation.
Yeah, but it's interesting from your own perspective because of the association with the accident at the time.
Right.
Yeah, wow, that's fascinating. Well, since we are talking about something that changed your life, obviously, this was 2015, and you were with the band. Hang on, I got to get the name right. The band was...
Royal Pirates.
Royal Pirates, that's right. Okay. And so that's a band that you joined when you decided to go to Korea to pursue your music career, right?
Yes.
Because you're born and raised in LA.
Yes.
Yeah, you're an LA boy.
That's the perfect way to describe it. Oh,
Yeah.
La Puente boy. La Puente. And Hacienda Heights. Yeah.
Yeah, so you grew up in LA, but did you always love music? Did you want to pursue this as a career, or did it just happen by accident? Tell me.
So music is just something that it was like my escape ever since I was a kid. And I was one of those people that in high school, I played water polo and I swam.
Okay, you're so tall. It makes sense. What are you, 6'3"?
I'm 6'3". Wow, you're really good with that.
I do my research.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no. Yeah, that's why I'm a journalist. I do all the research. But no. I mean, for Korean, that's really tall.
I guess
But you're
so.
young. The young Koreans are definitely much taller now.
Yeah, if you go there now, there's a ton of, everyone's my height.
It's so true, isn't it? Yeah, and back in the day, they used to be my height.
Oh, I see.
But okay, so you play water polo.
I played water polo in high school and college. And I was also in marching band.
Oh.
So I would split my time.
Did you go to band camp?
I did not go to band camp both times because I was in Hell Week for water polo.
Oh,
and
okay.
So there's just no way I could have done it.
Okay.
And I remember I was spreading myself pretty thin doing that. But...
So wait, you were kind of a jock, and you know how band kids.
Yeah.
You know, it's
like a
like
band geek.
exactly.
Right,
so
right.
you were kind of both.
Yes. I
That's
was
interesting. Okay.
both. I was more like a jock geek.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Dual purpose. Okay. So you were in both, but so you love the sports, but you also love the music. What instrument did you play?
Trumpet. I played trumpet.
Trumpet. Okay.
And I was a big fan of like Chet Baker and
yeah.
a lot of like Louis Armstrong, jazz music
course.
was just so
Miles
cool
Davis.
to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But I realized I wasn't going to get in the Olympics, for water polo or I swam at CIF, but I never got to state championship level. And in college, it became more of a hobby than a career choice. But music was just something that it's the only thing that I can do that I'm kind of insatiable when it comes to music.
Okay.
I don't need to go to the restroom. I don't need to eat. I don't need to sleep as long as I'm writing.
Oh, okay. So you're almost like obsessive about it once you get into it.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's the only thing that I do that matters more than anything else. So it's also been not my religion, but my escape after my accident. Like
Yeah.
I was a bassist for so many years and I committed so much time and energy to that. And after the accident, it was my escape.
Yeah, yeah. But it did change, obviously, the direction of your musical life because you're a bassist, which means you need your hands. You need both your hands to play the instrument.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So, okay. So you basically know that music is something that you love.
Right.
Did you think, though, you could make a career out of it in the beginning?
No.
And what did your parents think?
So, well, I didn't even think of a career option when I was younger. I didn't grow up in the stereotypical Asian American household.
Okay.
My parents, a lot of Korean Americans that are my generation, they came from a war-torn Korea.
Yep.
And so they were in survival mode.
Yeah. Definitely.
But when my parents were here, we were definitely not well off growing up. When I was in college, I was homeless for 2 years.
Where did you live?
I lived in Cal State. I went to Cal State Fullerton. I lived in my car. And
For 2 years?
For 2 years, I was often on my friends' couches, but my home base was my couch.
Your car?
Yes, or my car. Yeah, sorry.
Oh my gosh.
And I would shower at 24 Hour Fitness. Wow. And that's just...
Do your parents know that you're living in your car?
So I guess I might as well say it now. My father is disabled.
Okay.
And so he was doing his own thing at that time. And my mother basically lived alone for those even longer than that. I'm not sure exactly how long, like 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
And she was just taking care of my younger sister. But at that time, I'm 19. I didn't really want to burden them as well.
I see. Okay.
I was a waiter at a restaurant. I worked at Baskin Robbins. I was working as a data entry abstractor for some private company in Norwalk.
Okay.
So just making ends meet like here and there.
Okay.
And still music was my escape.
And then you did okay in school. So
Right.
here's the thing. That's a story of survival in itself. Because a lot of people, if they were under those kinds of adverse conditions, they would just quit or, they wouldn't stick with it. They wouldn't stay in school. They would just kind of maybe just try to figure it out some other way. Yeah. So what gave you the strength to kind of stick it out that way?
Well, honestly, I have an older sister. I have 2 siblings, older sister and younger sister.
Okay.
And my older sister had it very tough compared to us.
Okay.
So in our family, she's kind of the warrior. She's like our role model. And so seeing her persevere, there's no excuse for us to give up. If she could deal with the shit, why am I going to give up? I would just feel weak at that point.
Okay. So she set an example.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Korean women, we're badass,
Warriors.
Yeah, totally. So I get that. I totally get that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you get through that, and so then you're deciding, what am I going to do?
So I meet these Korean guys, and actually up to this point, I don't speak Korean.
Okay. Oh, none.
Right. I speak more Spanish than Korean because my dad speaks Spanish. He was actually, this is a weird time to say it, but he came to America from Korea. And I think he was pen pals with this girl from Ecuador. And he spoke a lot of Spanish.
Wow.
Right? The heart wants what it wants. So he ended up in California.
Oh,
and
I see.
I don't think he could get through. And so I think he was kind of just stuck in California and then met my mom
Okay.
Just
And that's how
then I happened.
Okay. Okay. So Korean, you didn't have much of Korean language background at all.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
So I met these guys that they went viral on YouTube. They were called Royal Pirates by doing K-pop covers
Okay.
as a rock band. And I had been in a metal band ever since I was 16 or 17.
And playing the bass at that point.
Correct.
Okay.
And then I just thought it was an opportunity to connect with my roots because I never spoke Korean before. I didn't really have a lot of Korean friends. I knew two Korean people in high school and in college.
Isn't that funny? Because we always assume that Koreans who grew up in LA would have that LA Korean experience, right?
Yeah.
But you're not the first Korean, from LA to tell me this, that they were sort of not part of the Korean scene.
Yeah, I definitely felt isolated my own way. And even amongst other Koreans because I didn't speak Korean.
Right.
So when I'd see their parents, instead of 안녕하세요, it would be more like 안녕하세요.
Oh, yeah.
And it was
twang.
just terrible. I had that it sounded like I was from Nashville. But somehow
wow.
I was just drawn towards that.
Interesting. So there's something in you that was curious then.
Yes.
Okay.
It's the perfect way to describe it.
Right.
And then I joined them and we signed to a company in Korea. And next thing you know, I'm on my way to Korea and quit all my jobs, just graduated college, and I'm in Korea. And
you're like, how did this happen?
yes. And I was nervous the entire time, but it was an exciting step. And it's actually against my character to do something like that. But my whole life up to this point has kind of been going against the grain of what I feel I should be doing.
Well, hey, one of my favorite lines is a John Lennon lyric from his song Beautiful Boy. And I really believe this. Life is what happens when you're busy making other plans. And that is true. Sometimes, not sometimes, oftentimes things happen that you don't expect and you're thinking you're going to go this way, but then all of a sudden, you start going this way.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, but here's the sort of tragic part of Royal Pirates. Their bassist had died.
Correct.
Right? In a car accident, is that right?
Yes, in Diamond Bar.
In Diamond Bar, yeah.
I believe, or they were from Diamond Bar. So I think on the way coming back home, I think it was a church retreat. I don't remember all the details, so I don't want to speak incorrectly on that. But yes, he did. He was the brother of the lead singer of the band.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
So they had just gone through this loss.
Yes.
And then that's when they were in search of another bassist.
A new bassist, yes.
Yes. Okay. So that's how it happened for you. So you go to Korea. This is a new experience. Had you ever been to Korea before this?
I went once before.
Okay.
My aunt from Korea, she's an angel. And I say that because she teaches people with, I forget what it's called, but they have a disability. They can't control their nerves. Is it cerebral palsy? I believe it's cerebral palsy.
Or MS, yeah. Okay.
But she takes care of them. She teaches them. That's her main. That's her job.
Wow.
And
So
she's a
she
tough
is an
woman.
angel.
Yeah,
Okay.
She's a tough woman. She's a tough Korean woman.
Yeah.
But she wanted me to experience Korea, so she flew me out for 2 weeks, and it was mind blowing.
How old were you?
I think I was 17 or 18.
Oh, okay. You were old enough to remember it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So before, but that was the only time you had been to Korea.
My first time in Korea.
Okay. And then you went back. Obviously, you moved there with the band.
Yes.
Probably sensory overload on all fronts for you.
Right.
And then not speaking the language. So you obviously had to start learning Korean pretty fast.
Yes. There was like a buffer in between where the company interested in signing us was courting us. And so we went to a school called MI based in Hollywood, which is the Musicians Institute. And I studied bass there as well.
Okay.
However, after I moved to Korea, it was really full-fledged like culture shock.
Yeah.
Because I'm basically, I played water polo with a bunch of like white people.
guys.
and I was like,
yeah.
what's going on? I thought I was one of them.
Right.
And then I go here.
No, that's the identity thing that a lot of us go through,
think
right?
so.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden we're thrown into our own people, but they don't feel like our own people because we're so not used to it.
Right.
Yeah. So that probably had to take a little bit of an adjustment. But I'm always curious, what's it like to be in like a K-pop boy band in Korea? It must be crazy.
It was, I got my master's degree in how to like survive in
Like crazy fandom?
entertainment. Our fans were awesome.
Yeah.
But we definitely didn't have the same clout as like the Big Bangs or the current like BTS. We actually debuted around the same time as BTS.
Oh.
And so we would share dressing rooms with them.
Really?
Yeah, at the very infant stage of who they were. And it was pretty exciting to see. Actually, I saw all these artists that were rookies kind of explode from the time that I was in the hospital. And then when I came out, they were everywhere.
Wow.
They were on TV nonstop. And
in a span of what, just like a year or?
Within about a year or 2 years,
okay.
K-pop just really kind of took over.
Yeah, it really has. And BTS, I mean,
right.
That's insane what's
right.
happened with them. So that's interesting that you saw them in their infancy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So could you actually see that there was something there, or were you just like, oh, just another boy band?
I could see, I remember one day we were backstage and we, at the end of all the broadcasting programs, I don't know if I said that correctly, but
yeah, you did.
We kind of insa to the producers. We have to go, oh, good job to the producers.
Yeah,
we have to kind of like milk that opportunity.
Of course.
To try to
show
get
respect.
Yes.
Yeah.
And be like, hey, like if you want next week, we would love to be here. That's basically us. Like, I don't know how to say it.
You have to suck up to them. No,
yeah, that's the best way to say it.
Yeah, you got to work it, of course.
It's also showing respect, and that's just the culture ingrained in the entertainment system for idols.
Absolutely.
And artists. However, I remember the main producer for M Countdown. This is when BTS had their second song, I think. I don't know if it was Fire, but I remember him singling them out and saying, "You guys are going to be huge. Like, let's 친하게 지내자." That means
let's
like
be friendly.
Yeah, let's be close.
Yeah.
And I was like, I wish I was there. I wish he said that to me. And then when we inside to him, when we said hello, like he was like, "Oh, nice to meet you guys."
And that was it. Oh, darn
I was like,
you're like, okay, wow. So he spotted it, obviously.
Right. There's some people that just kind of have that eye and that instinct for who is going to be the next big thing.
Well, that's their job. You know, they have to see that it factor that, that people call it, right?
And to be honest, it's pretty difficult to market a band, a rock band in Korea.
You guys were rock.
Yes.
That's
So
right.
we had no dancing. We had no flashy moves.
Right.
There was one time my singer, Moon, on this Christmas special, he was pretending to play the guitar with his teeth. And it was just so stupid. We're all just really silly.
But that's like crazy
guys,
rock and rollers. That's what they do.
Yeah, but obviously we're not really playing the instruments. And so he was pretending to play with his teeth. And I remember some managers, I heard somebody say, "What the hell is that kid doing?" And we're just stupid kids, like just messing around.
You know what, though? You got to try, right?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, to set yourself apart a little bit.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to do that in an industry, in a culture where everything is so conformist. You're supposed to kind of fall in line. That's part of the thing where at the end you're showing your respect.
Right.
However, you have to stand out. So that's the fine line that was so confusing for us because all three of us we grew up in LA.
Yeah.
In LA County. So trying to discern the right amount of differentiating ourselves versus conforming was the difficult part.
Yeah, that's got to be tricky, actually.
Yeah, it's a fine line. And
yeah.
Yeah.
And did you have very good guidance, or were you just trying to figure it out on your own?
So our company was so supportive.
Okay.
They're good people.
Yeah.
But I think for a rock band in general, just nobody really knew how to push the rock band.
Right.
But one of the biggest rock bands in Korea, they're called YB. Mm-hmm. And the lead singer, Yoon Do-hyun, is a very close He's a close friend of mine.
Big brother,
and, he's achieved mainstream success because I believe he had a song that was big during the Olympics.
Okay.
But you have to kind of catch those opportunities in order to
timing,
to ride the wave. Right.
Yeah.
So it's the timing, and also he's very talented and so well spoken as an MC, just as a celebrity that is loved by the people. But it's not just having that rock band alone. It seems kind of difficult to carry that forward.
Not sustainable. Okay.
Right. So you kind of have to, learning that in the beginning of my career in Korea really set the foundation for what I do now.
Oh, okay. Okay. So it was useful then, even though it may have been difficult, but it definitely was useful.
In retrospect, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think everything in life, most things in life, even if they're horrible, there's got to be something that you can take away from it. Right. And apply it. So you're in this band, and how many years were you in Korea before your accident?
I don't remember what year I went. I think it was 2010 or 11.
Okay. So it was like 4 or 5 years.
It's pretty early in.
Yeah. Okay.
We had just started doing like some TV shows. I was on this jungle survival show.
Oh, you really?
Yeah. And the producers would just tell me to take off my clothes all the time. I was known as the guy with 3% body fat.
Oh, my God.
Now I'm
well, you were a polo player.
Yeah. So that was it wasn't difficult to get to that point, but I couldn't speak Korean well. So everyone thought I was dumb because I couldn't, as you can tell right now, I can have a conversation, but in Korean, it's like I'm making sounds. It's not very effective communication.
Yeah.
But so the producer was just like, take off your clothes.
Oh my God.
Just take off your shirt. And every time I did that, the ratings would go up.
Oh, that's hilarious.
That's just how it is.
Oh my, you were just an object. You were totally objectified.
Happily so.
Yeah.
Happily so.
I hope you got paid well for that.
I actually, because of my time in Korea, I did not make anything.
Oh, what?
Because we were constantly recouping.
You stripped for nothing?
It is what it is.
James.
You gotta.
Oh man.
I don't know. That's the truth.
Okay. All right. Okay. So you did that show.
And also I did like a swimming show and those were the main things that I did in Korea.
Yeah. I mean, Korea has all those different types of weird, freaky, like variety shows and reality shows and all that.
They're really fun. They're really fun experiences. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So you were obviously trying to do a bunch of stuff while you were there. So you're feeling like you're on a roll of some sort.
Right. Things were going well.
Right. Yeah. And then obviously 2015 happens with the accident.
Yes.
I don't want you to relive it per se, but I really would love to know what you were going through because your life changed on a dime after this. I mean, one day you're flying high and then you're trying to walk into this restaurant where you're meeting a friend and then everything changes.
Right. So it's the day after I turned 27.
Okay.
June 10th. And everything just kind of stopped at that point. I still feel like I'm 27.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to put it other than I definitely have some PTSD
as you would. Yeah.
But I can't really escape that day.
Yeah.
But I've had to find ways to adapt, and I'm not like a super Christian, I'm not a super religious person, but I did elect on that day, okay, if I die right now, because that's a reality that can happen within minutes because blood was coming out of my hand. Like you're pouring it out of like a glass. It was it was crazy how much blood was coming out of my hand.
Well, there are blood vessels, arteries, everything. Right. So and if it was almost severed off, I would imagine so.
So I in that moment, there was this hysteria and then there was this calm. There's a sense of, okay, if it's over, I got to elect God.
Really?
And so just because I don't want to go to hell. And that's what I've heard in pop culture.
Okay.
That's
so your Christianity, made you think that way for sure. That
it was a decision. It was just a selection. It wasn't this, like up to that point, I had so many experiences where I thought it was supernatural connection, but I realized I'm just an emotional person. I'm an artist. I write music, so I have to be very empathetic with other people's experiences.
Right.
However, in this moment, I just decided, okay, I might die right now, so I don't want to go to hell where it seems like everything sucks.
Okay.
I want to go to the other place.
Right.
So I might be wrong, but I'll go with this. If you can let me keep my hand, if you can let me live throughout today, then I'll just, for the rest of my life, I'll just pick you. That's really how it turned.
Really? So you were actually having this conversation with God?
In my head. While I'm screaming for some reason in Korean, I don't want to die.
Oh my gosh.
And at the moment, it probably looked way worse than I thought it was, but I had a big piece of glass stuck in my head. My left arm was pretty much ripped out of my shoulder socket, and my left hand was hanging off. So it looks like a war zone.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Jeez. Okay. But that's so interesting that you had this moment of
clarity
clarity
and peace, surprisingly.
So that, a lot of people say that when they're in near death situations, that there is a calm that comes over them.
Right. I was the calmest one.
Of everyone. Oh my God. Isn't that amazing? Yeah.
But then there was this moment where the waiter at the restaurant looked at me and he started smiling. He's like, it's going to be okay. And I was like, this guy's an idiot. I remember thinking, this guy, because he said that.
Right. Oh, it changed it for you.
I remember thinking that. Can I cuss?
Yeah, totally.
Sorry.
We had Ben Baller on our show. He was saying the F word like every other word. So yeah,
I was thinking, I'm effed.
Yeah. Wow.
I guess that's more appropriate.
No, it's okay. Yeah. Feel free to speak however you want. Yeah. So, okay. So I always think it's so interesting to hear stories of people when they are in those sort of dire circumstances, how they respond and how they react.
Right. So that moment was crazy. And then I won't speak on it for too long, but I had a super long surgery. They said it would take 4 hours. It took 8 hours.
Oh.
And then they sewed, something was incorrect. So my hand was going to explode.
Oh.
I remember it was maybe triple the size.
Wow.
And so it was throbbing in pain and they wouldn't let me eat because of the what is it called? The word escapes me right now, but anesthetic. The anesthetic that they gave me. They said I wouldn't be able. I might not be able to swallow it, or I might choke.
Yeah.
So I hadn't eaten at this point for over 24 hours, and like I said, I'm insatiable with certain things. So I was screaming at them, "Give me something to eat! Like, give me some water." They wouldn't give me water.
Yeah.
So at that hospital, I was there for about 2 weeks, I think.
Okay.
And my hand was basically rotting off.
Oh my God.
The entire time. So I was watching my hand just kind of go away.
Kind of decaying, yeah.
Correct. And the smell, I remember the smell was just like, okay, I'm holding on to this. And they were like, we're going to have to cut it.
Yeah, exactly. What were they telling you? What were they telling you about the chances of saving your hand at that point?
Like I said, I didn't speak Korean very well. So it was terrifying.
Was anybody with you who did speak?
So my management, everybody came to the hospital.
Okay.
And at the time, because of MERS, all the hospitals were rejecting people. And I called a friend who is related to some very powerful people in Korea, and I knew that they owned hospitals. So I was like, hey, can you get me into like this hospital, that hospital? And every hospital was
just
impossible
turning
to
people
get
away
in because of MERS.
Oh, what horrible timing.
Yeah. So MERS because of MERS. So I ended up getting surgery at this place that looked like a taco shack.
What?
Yeah, it was I didn't even know what it looked like because when I went, I was so focused on my hand.
Yeah.
But the next morning when I walked outside, I was like, where the hell am I?
Wow.
Like, am I back in I've been watching Narcos recently. I felt like I was in an episode of Narcos.
Oh my God.
I got my
third world clinic somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you have to get the surgery for these kind of injuries done at a place that specializes in it.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So luckily they did. And then I got moved to another hospital after, and then they did a bunch of different types of surgery. And I remember during the surgery, they were listening to Big Bang and Twice, like in the background, they were playing this. And I was like, this is a nightmare. Like I don't want to lose my hand to Big Bang or Twice.
Oh man.
I mean, I love Twice and Big Bang, but I wouldn't want to lose my hand to that music,
That gave you more motivation then. Okay.
But so the physical trauma is something I'm going to have to live with the rest of my life. A doctor at Cedars-Sinai told me that it's basically like a spare tire. And when it goes, it goes. So, because there's something called a vascular necrosis and the joints are rotting away at this point. So that's why I have tape on it because of the pain. And I'm on painkillers as well.
Okay.
So it's just
there's nothing they can do to repair that.
Correct. Because the veins are so screwed up right now. The bones are not getting any blood supply.
Oh, I see.
So it's just rotting slowly. And so there's severe arthritis.
Okay. So what does that mean? That it's just going to slowly deteriorate over time?
And then it's a matter of managing the pain now.
I see.
So it's just pain that gets worse and worse.
Okay.
However, there's another surgery called fusion where some people get their ankle or knee fused.
Yeah. Or back. I mean, they do fusion.
Right. So it's like that.
Okay. And that's going to, if you do that, would that help the
so
situation?
there would be no pain. However, the pain would be distributed to my elbow and my shoulder, because that's where the pressure would go. Right?
Oh, I see.
But it is what it is. I've learned how to deal with the physical pain. It sucks, but I think mentally I went through some life altering.
I would like to talk about that because I think, you went through a horrific accident, but it's also a loss, right? You went through a loss of your hand and your musical capability as you knew it. And so this is kind of like a grieving process you had to go through.
Yes. So the reason I posted the picture
Yeah.
on my Instagram is because during the lawsuit with the company that this happened, they were offering me like beans.
Yeah.
It was nothing.
Right.
I don't even know if
Right.
that's a phrase. They're offering me beans. They're offering me
pretty much nothing. Right.
Nothing.
Right.
very little.
Yeah.
And I just felt so helpless. So I decided it's time to kind of share part of what I went through.
And in that Instagram post, you were really pissed.
Yeah.
What you wrote. I mean, you were pissed.
Yeah.
You did not hold back. So, you could. It was a visceral, angry reaction.
They were a very large corporation, very rich company.
Yeah.
But they just, in Korea, there's no punitive damages. So it's just like, hey, you would have made this much up to this year. This is how much you would have lost for the rest of your life. We'll just give you this much. But up to that point, I wasn't earning anything because I was still.
Oh my gosh.
I was
so that's
still
not fair.
like a rookie in a band.
Right.
So they're just taking away all the potential.
Right.
And so I decided, okay, I spent a lot of sleepless nights like deciding what to do. And I just took a settlement because I didn't want to keep thinking about it. And I don't know if that's just in my character or.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, oftentimes when you're up against a behemoth, a corporation, a giant, it's like David and Goliath, isn't it? Battle.
Yeah. And I've heard lawyers say we can just bleed him out.
Yeah.
I've heard things like that. Like, hey, this is like this kid doesn't have much.
Yeah.
Like
No. It's totally heartless.
Yeah.
But it happens all the time.
It's a business.
It is. And that they're not looking at you and your life. They're just looking at you as this thing that they have to get rid of.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was like I was pestering them.
Yeah.
So I decided that I would just
settle,
not let my destiny lie in their hands. So I just took it and I just moved on.
Okay.
It still bothers me sometimes.
Yeah.
In the middle of the night.
I'm sure it does.
But I am trying to use the results of that accident as fuel.
Yeah.
And so I've had the strange luck of working with very successful artists in China after that.
Okay.
So within the past 2 years, I've had 3 number ones in China.
Wow.
Yeah, and my own album hit number 1 in the Philippines and top 10 in many other countries.
Yeah. That's amazing. So it's sort of, obviously you had to pivot a bit, but that pivot has resulted in some positive.
It's been working out.
Positive things. Yeah. Can I ask you though about going through this process? I'm sure you had to have gone through some pretty bad depression.
Yes.
Some dark days. Did you ever get to the point of suicide?
So
suicidal thoughts?
I definitely thought about it.
Tell me what that was like.
I don't know. I would be sleeping like all day for certain days. And then I remember I'd wake up like at 4 a.m. and I wouldn't know which day it was. And my hand would be throbbing in pain. And I'm just like, this is a waste, And so I definitely had to surround myself with positive people. And I was hanging out with this friend named Brad he was in a band called Busker Busker.
Okay.
They were a pretty popular band in Korea off of a show called Superstar K.
Okay.
That was like the American Idol of Korea.
Yeah.
And he told me, he's like, dude, you gotta shut up. Like, you gotta stop talking so negative because that's not you. He was telling me this. Like, you have some battles ahead. And if you want to win them, you need to focus. Like, you can't just keep going on with this negative talk. And so at that point, I didn't even realize I was doing that. You know how sometimes we can become slaves to our actions, our habits. Like sometimes I'll be on Instagram without even knowing I had my phone out.
Yeah.
Or I'll be on Twitter
Right,
or
right.
checking an email.
So your negativity became just a knee-jerk
correct.
reaction and the way you just were.
Yeah, it's just a habit. I don't like that. Like
Yeah.
that these things are controlling me
Right.
when I should be in control.
Yeah.
So,
No one would blame you though for feeling that way for a little while because of what happened to you. But I guess you were probably staying in that negative zone.
Yes.
Maybe too long, according to your friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was just a realist. You know,
Yeah.
he's just like a no BS kind of guy.
Right.
And so,
He was trying to like make you snap out of it.
yeah, and he also came to the hospital very often to hang out with me because that really helped the most when I had people come over
Yeah.
and spend time with me. And especially I had like my own room, you know, but every day I was seeing other people with cut off arms, legs, hands, fingers, toes, screaming, coming into the hospital.
Oh man.
And they would be next to 5 or 6 other people
Ugh.
with the same situation.
God.
So
Ugh.
just blood everywhere. So it was like Saw.
It was a war zone.
Yes.
Oh, it's like Saw the movie. Yeah. But yeah, that's brutal.
Yeah.
That's brutal.
So mentally, I couldn't escape those images, and I still can't. There are some that are just in my head that are printed on the insides of my skull.
Yeah.
I can't erase those images.
Right.
However, I found out that I could distract myself with music.
But did you ever at any point lose even that? Did you?
No.
No. Good. Okay.
no.
Good.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting. So you never lost your love of music.
Yeah, I remember I was writing music on the hospital bed like maybe 6 or 7 days after the accident.
Wow.
Just because I was like, I shouldn't waste these emotions.
Uh-huh.
You should kind of utilize this. And even if I do die, you know, if I don't decide to keep going on, then at least I can leave something like this. I don't know what it is. We know we're going to die at some point. And I think the accident showed me that it can happen at any point.
Yeah. You never know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You never know. And I at least wanted to leave something.
Huh.
Something inside me wanted to leave something.
That's pretty powerful, James. That even
that?
that soon after something so horrific that you thought you had clarity enough to say, I need to do something that's purposeful or at least something that I can leave behind if I'm going to go.
Right.
Yeah.
But
And it was music.
Yeah. But I definitely battled with that.
Yeah.
Like, on and off. It wasn't always so clear, but it was the only thing that I knew how to do.
Right.
You know?
Right.
I used to be a waiter. I used to type. I used to do data entry, but I can't do any of those things anymore.
Yeah.
You know, because I can't use my left hand.
Right.
So I have to do something. I have to play on my strengths.
Yeah.
And
that's why you decided to write more music and produce and then do more vocals because before you weren't the front man of the band.
Right.
So for you to then switch and decide to write music that you were going to sing,
Right.
that was definitely a change for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I also had to learn how to write for other people, you know, because that's been my bread and butter for the last couple of years.
Okay.
But writing for myself is something that I'll always do.
Well, speaking of writing for yourself, so after the accident, you decided to put out an album.
Yes.
Right? And you use crowdfunding.
Yes.
Which is great. And it actually really worked for you.
Yeah. We raised like $89,000 in a couple weeks.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Very
you
blessed.
you were obviously had a lot of supporters and a lot of fans who wanted to help you out
Yes,
because they knew that what you were going through, but also they appreciated your music. So I'm sure they were curious about what you would put out.
I'm very lucky. I'm very blessed.
Yeah. So I'm gonna try to play a clip of one of the songs. It's called The Light.
Okay.
Right. And this one I had read about where it was definitely some raw feelings about what you had gone through.
Yes.
And it was maybe a little too dark. So a friend of yours said, maybe you want to rework this a little bit.
Yeah. He said, switch it up. 'Cause
Yeah.
He's actually a super Christian.
Oh, okay. So he was like, this is not, this is too pessimistic. I mean, what did he think? He just thought,
Like, he said when he heard it, he wanted to kill himself.
oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah. Well, then maybe
So
that's a good thing you did change it
So
up.
he switched it up for me.
Okay. We're going to take a listen. Oh, we're going to take a listen to this. Here.
I'm on the edge of clarity. It's the same fight every day. I'm trying hard just to get it right, but the waves drowning out the light. It's drowning out the light.
Okay, so that obviously starts off with saying, you're wondering like what's going on,
Right.
right?
That's very slick engineering work, by the way. If you guys don't know, mainly just
I'm mixing my own damn audio here. I'm like experimenting, so hopefully I did it right.
it was great. It was
Thank you. But I did want to play that because
Thank
it
you.
obviously does reflect what you were going through at the time.
It was my diary.
Yeah.
It was just I was journaling my thoughts and just put it into that song.
Yeah, and it says it was drowning out the light, right? And so that's obviously how you felt, right? But then you were able to get back into the light.
Pull through.
Yeah.
Able to pull through.
So how was it trying to make this album? I mean, did the writing come easily? Like, tell me about that process because you were incorporating real life and your own emotions.
So I realized how important having a good team is because I tried to do everything by myself.
Yeah.
And I failed so many times in this process.
And life is all about failures. You
Right,
have
right.
to fail to be able to learn, right?
But it sucks.
It sucks. No, hey man, I'm not suggesting that it's great fun. Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah.
It does suck. But you failed, but you kept on moving on.
Yeah,
you
that's-
kept on picking yourself up.
Because when you stop, then what else is there to do? I don't know anything else other than to keep going forward. Because I realize when I stop and I settle, then I start sinking back to the person who didn't want to keep going.
Yeah.
I didn't want to live. So, yeah.
Did those moments come often?
Yes.
Or they did come often.
Yeah, they came a lot.
Okay.
Especially like in 2017, 2016, 2017.
Yeah.
But I
And did
decided to quit. I
Okay.
quit my band.
Okay. Yep.
And then I remember I just happened to know some people that were working in Hong Kong and in Beijing. And I rearranged a track for this singer named Jason Zhang, who he is a very famous singer in China, but surprisingly nobody knows him outside. Not nobody knows him, but a lot of people aren't aware of who he is outside of China.
Okay.
Are you aware?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He sang the OST for Transformers. Did
Oh.
a song with ex-ambassadors called Torches.
Okay.
And it's a great song,
Yeah.
but not that many people know outside. But in China, he's a stadium guy.
Yo,
He does
wow.
stadiums. And he's
Well, you know what? Sometimes if you're a superstar in China, then it doesn't really matter if you're not known outside because
It's
you're
so
already
big.
you're already catering to 1.5 billion people.
right. Well, he's
So-
performed in LA, I believe. And I think David Foster showed up and like a
Oh.
lot of huge, he's very, very talented.
Okay.
He's like one of the best singers I've ever heard in my life.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I got to look this guy up.
Yeah, but
Okay.
a lot of people don't know because there's like a cultural barrier, I guess.
Well, it's the problem of crossover,
Right.
That's always been an issue, especially for artists from Asia.
Right.
How do you cross over to the Western, audiences and the Western musical world? It's something that still people haven't figured out, except for BTS maybe, but that's
Yeah.
just such a weird phenomenon anyway.
Yeah,
But
I mean, I'm still trying to figure that out.
Right.
to be
I
honest.
was actually gonna talk to you about that. It's just like you've kind of tried to do both, but what do you think are still the barriers that exist to Asian artists trying to cross over?
Well, there's definitely, I think as an Asian in America, it's difficult to break from the stereotypes that have been cast upon us.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm sure you felt that in your
Definitely.
industry as well.
I mean, we talk about it on this podcast a lot about, representation, feeling like the other, and still having those barriers in front of us. And I think for Asian males, there's an additional barrier.
Right. But there's definitely some people that are trying to break the mold, like a transparent agency, like Far East Movement.
Yeah.
My good friend DPD he's the creative director at that team, and they've done a great job at trying to cultivate and foster a lot of Asian American talent.
Yeah.
As well as 88 Rising. I'm not too familiar with their artists personally, but I see what they're doing and they're giving a spin on it to which I feel the younger generation can connect with using social media like TikTok or Triller or or Instagram and whatnot.
Definitely.
So I think for the younger generation, the barrier is getting broken down. However, I'm kind of in this phase where it's a little bizarre. It's like difficult to navigate because I'm not the kid anymore who can like innovate with them. So my music has to be dope. Like, it has to be really good or I can't even play in the game.
Right.
But luckily,
It's not like you're an old man, James, crying out loud.
yeah, well, I think the ship has sailed on trying to be like the.
Well, you're not
Asian
like a teeny
Justin
bopper.
Bieber.
Yeah,
Correct.
exactly. But still, but you want to evolve anyway as a musician.
Yes, luckily what I love to do the most is songwriting.
Yeah.
And so there's still a lot of opportunity for that.
Right. And you're hopeful about that path that you're taking.
Yes.
Yeah. Because it's obviously resulting in some, good reviews and people listening. And obviously you said you were number 1 in China. Yeah. I think you were number 2 in Singapore.
My personal album was number 1 in the Philippines.
Yeah.
And number 2 in a few other countries. I think in Singapore as well.
Right.
And I've been able to have a lot of collaborations with some super talented artists. Like I just released a song called All Right featuring Amber Liu. She used to be in a group called FX in Korea. She's quite a prominent figure in the K-pop community.
Right.
And I also had
she has
song.
a lovely voice.
Oh, she's a killer.
Yeah.
But more than her voice is her work ethic is very respectable.
Okay.
And there's kids like Eric Nam. I guess he's not a kid anymore, but Eric Nam is a friend of mine, and he's more than being an amazing singer. He works his ass off, and so that kind of shows you.
So does that give you motivation when you see all these others doing well? At least, it's like it's working to a certain extent. I mean,
yes,
and you're all in it together. Do you guys support each other or is there a lot of competition?
Well, to be honest, Amber is responsible for most of the success I've had as an artist because she's so supportive. She's so supportive. And she's like a baby, but she's also super mature in a lot of ways.
Maybe she's an old soul.
Maybe.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Amber, this other music clip from one of your other songs I wanted to play, it does feature Amber.
Yes.
Perfect?
Yes, perfect.
It's a lovely song. And this is more hopeful.
It seems like that, but it's not.
Oh, it isn't? Really? Because I was listening to it going, these lyrics are a little bit... Okay, so tell me then, what's the background on this one?
So I was on Norco because of my hand.
Okay. And Norco being a painkiller.
Painkiller, yes. Yeah. And codeine. And people were telling me to stop, but I couldn't. And so
see, this is why the opioid crisis is out of control.
Yeah.
Oh, geez. So did you start feeling like you had to take it?
Yes.
And boy. Okay.
That's what the song is about.
Interesting. Yeah. Oh, okay. So it's not about like getting better. Oops. Okay. Well, that's interesting though. Wow.
It's not exactly a negative song either. It's about how something can be deemed imperfect by the world and it's enough for you. So it's not exactly about codeine, but it's about something that it's imperfect to everybody else, but you need it in that moment. And I don't think that's always a bad thing.
As long as you can stop.
As long as, well, like I did stop.
You did. Yeah. Good. Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that because
but it's a very raw feeling that I had. And I think my best songs are the ones that were visceral, were instinctively written.
Well, I think that's probably where the best music comes from, right? It has to be real, authentic, and sometimes painful.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Some of the best love songs are because of pain.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's listen to just a little clip of this and I'm going to do my engineering again if I can. Yeah.
Pharmaceuticals, just to keep my senses on the ball. Light it up. We're here now, it's a celebration. I'm real careful when I say voices in my head say you're perfect, you're perfect, you're perfect, you're perfect to me.
I mean, I think it's a beautiful song.
Thank you.
Now that I realize, I just caught that line about the pharmaceuticals. Yeah, okay. So I missed that, obviously.
I couldn't sleep.
Very subtle.
For a long time.
You couldn't.
Yeah. There was a point where I couldn't wake up, and there was a point where I couldn't sleep.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, the experience with my hand is like an entire podcast in itself because I even went to a mental hospital in Korea.
Really?
For my lawsuit, they said that to claim depression, I had to be diagnosed with it as if it wasn't obvious. And so I went to a mental hospital for 5 days, I believe. 5, 6 days.
Did you have to stay there? You had to check in. Oh,
Yes.
wow.
And
Okay.
I was with clinically insane people for 5, 6 days. That some of them they tried to commit suicide. Some of them, I wasn't in the criminally insane ward,
Right.
but I was in the clinically insane ward where people would scream every single night. Somebody would be taken to a room. They'd pull their pants down, shove a shot in their butt cheek, and then the person would collapse.
Wow.
I would witness this, and I'm pretty here. I'm like I'm not missing any
You're just-
marbles.
you're just suffering from depression.
Yes, and then when I went there, I was like, oh, this is depression.
Wow.
Because they're
Well, that's beyond depression. Yeah, that's like. So I'm sure that there were probably schizophrenics
Yes.
and so that
So
my
I was
father was
in-
a psychiatrist. So
I see.
yeah.
oh, okay.
So,
I see.
being put in a psych ward like that, that's pretty intense.
Right, where you can't get out. And so I couldn't have my phone. I couldn't
Jeez.
you're not allowed to have shoes with shoelaces. You can't have like pens.
Right.
It was an interesting time in my life.
Wow. That must have been a long 5 days.
The longest.
Yeah.
And when I came out, I remember my friend told me I looked like I had just been born. Because my eyes were so, like I went to a 편의점 or I went to a convenience store and I was so happy because I could just buy snacks.
Yeah. Wow. So it gave you a new lease on life and not to take things for granted. Well, I would imagine that all of these experiences for you have given you a new lease on life.
Yes.
Tell me what is the one thing that has changed the most for you in terms of outlook or just things you appreciate or the way you just live every day.
So I also had a stroke at this time.
What?
Yeah. After the accident, I was lying in bed for months.
Okay.
And so I developed blood clots in my legs. I have something called a PFO, which is a hole in your heart, which is sounds like the most emotional disease to have, but I have a hole in my heart.
And that was caused by you just because you were not
I
moving?
was born with that though.
Oh, I was just going to say,
Right.
that's weird. Okay.
But the blood clot going to my brain
Okay.
is a result of not moving.
Oh,
So even long flights, they recommend like walking around.
right. Right.
So I had 2 near-death experiences within months of each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just realized when you go, you go.
Yeah.
When you die, you die.
Don't know
And
when. Yep.
It's so thin. This is so like,
Life is fragile.
yeah, we're literally on a spinning rock
Yeah.
in the middle of the universe. And for some reason, it means so much to us. I think maybe because we know we're going to die. But just accepting that I'm going to die someday
Yeah.
has given me a sense of peace and allows me to pursue things that I do go after
Yeah.
with a passion that did not exist before.
I think that is a great thing to embrace. I really do, because I think death and near death or experiencing loss, traumatic loss, and I have for sure. My father was killed by a 16-year-old driver 8 years ago, and so that kind of loss is pretty intense, as you can imagine. Thank you, and that still is with me. So that's where you learn lessons too of. You never know.
Yeah.
You never know. So therefore, you do have to approach death as if, you know what, it could happen tomorrow. So I better just fully embrace.
Right.
And
this might not be a good thing, but it gave me, I'm so impatient with ignorance now and stupidity
yeah.
that I don't waste my time. Whereas when I was younger, I felt like I had to argue, and I might be wrong as well, but I had to get my point across. But now I'm at the point where if somebody doesn't understand me and I can tell that they are not willing to compromise or, try to have a meaningful conversation, then I just smile. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, all right, it's a waste of my time.
Not worth it.
And so I don't,
Yeah.
not caring.
Wow. That must save you a lot of time and
lot of time.
frustration.
A lot of time.
Yeah.
Saved
That's a
lot of
good lesson.
Yeah.
That's a good lesson.
So I got my master's degree in not caring about certain things that I used to be so.
You know what? Honestly, James, that's really good that you've learned it at the age of 30.
Yeah.
Because as someone who's a little older than you. I mean, that took me a lot longer to learn that lesson. As you get older, you start really embracing the idea of not giving a shit about what other people think, and all of that stuff. It does come with age, but it's great that you've already learned that at your age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So what would you, I know you've been asked this before, but I'm going to ask it because I think it's important for people who are listening and watching, what you have gone through and are still dealing with, right? It's one of the worst things that could happen to somebody who was on a trajectory in life. But some people who are going through some bad stuff right now, what would you tell them to give them some sort of hope?
Yeah, you gotta reach out for help, because like if you just kind of stay in that rut, you're gonna I don't know the term for it, but it's just negative feedback. It's a negative
vicious
feedback
cycle.
loop.
Yeah, it's a vicious cycle. You stay in that cycle.
And then it just gets worse and worse. So you need to seek help, and you have to understand that it can be better if you want it to be better. So you have to make it better. You have to really want it.
Yeah.
And there was definitely a point where I didn't even want it.
Yeah.
I thought I wanted it, but I didn't do anything about it. So doing the Kickstarter in the first place was just a way for me to get motivated about something.
Yeah.
And it gave me a goal, and it had its ups and downs, but it was it was something to focus on that I didn't have before.
Right.
And it also gave me the resources to do that.
Right.
So now I'm doing something called a Patreon. I know this sounds like a pitch, but I'm doing a Patreon, and it's my new way of doing that, of sustaining that goal. I'm trying to release new music every month, more so if often.
That's great.
And that the patrons, I call them my Patreon family, they help me do that consistently and at a quality that I feel I need to sustain my music at.
Yeah. And that gives you that focus, like you're saying, that drive, that motivation, which we all need.
Yeah. So even if you can't find it, you have to manufacture that motivation if you want to get out of that rut. And I also realized with my accident, everybody has something like this. I used to have kind of a victim mentality, just because I'm overly sensitive, maybe. I don't know. I think a lot of kids have this, but I never really escaped that until the accident happened. When you really become a victim.
You were a victim, yeah.
You're like, oh shit. When you see people at the hospital that are way worse than you, you're like,
wow.
At least I'm not that.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's like everything. It's all about balance,
and perspective.
Right. That's like something you can always say. That's always true.
But when you actually go through it, then you really do get some real life perspective.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like it can really be worse. And you get tired of hearing people say that, but when you feel that,
yes,
it's so liberating.
Well, listen, James, I always say to people, I used to say, flippantly, oh, I could get hit by a bus tomorrow, right? And you don't really mean it. And so I'm going to live fully, and you don't really mean it because you don't think, well, that's my father was hit by a car, and he never expected that morning he walked out the door that he would get hit by a car. That to me, because of that real life experience for me, did change me, right? And I don't say it flippantly anymore, and I really actually mean it. Yeah. So, but we don't want to wish that on people, and that's the way they learn the lesson. But that's why we want to share these stories, so that people, don't have to get to that point to, learn that lesson.
But everybody will have their own thing at some point.
Absolutely, we all do. That's life. No, that's what life is all about. One thing I have to mention before we wrap this up. You have a dog named Jerry.
Yes, my
and
son.
he has his own Instagram.
I'm
Jerry,
trying to make him famous. Yeah,
Jerry _ the Wolf.
Yes.
WOOLF. Okay, so I looked it up because I saw this in the research. I'm like, oh, he has a dog. I have 2 dogs.
Oh,
I love them beyond belief.
Okay.
I opened up your Instagram and I saw his picture. I'm like, oh my God, he's so cute.
He's handsome.
I literally was like, oh my God, this dog is so freaking cute.
Yeah. He looks like Richard Gere. He's
what?
very
What?
He looks like my dog is sexy. He's a sexy dog. He gets free clothes from Bape. Do you know Bape?
No, I want free clothes for my dogs.
Yeah.
Oh my God. He's so cute.
I'm trying to make him famous to the point where he can sustain his own medical bills. But I'm not at that point yet.
Oh my, is he a rescue or did
He's
you?
a rescue.
Oh,
Yeah,
my
yeah.
two dogs are too.
Yeah,
they're the best.
They're the best.
No,
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
the best. No, people should not shop. They should adopt. But he's adorable.
Thank you so
we,
much.
We should have a doggy play date because
Okay.
I rescued my dog from Singapore and I
Oh.
brought her back when I moved back from Singapore. And then my other dog I rescued here in LA.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, that's the way to go. Let's
do it.
But I love your dog.
Thank you so much.
But I love your story more. And I think that you are an amazingly courageous guy.
Oh, thank you so much.
And I love the fact that you're willing to share the story so openly because I think it's hard. And I can see that it's still hard for you to talk about, you know?
A little
Yeah.
bit. But I appreciate you giving me this opportunity to speak on this platform. I really respect you and all the work you've done.
Thank you.
And I think that this is a great platform that will do very well in the future, which is why I reached out to Benny and I asked, can I be part of this?
I think it's great. And we want more people to reach out to us. We want more people to feel more open because our culture oftentimes, you know, we've been programmed not to be open. We've been programmed to keep it all in, keep private, all of that. But, you know, I think the more we speak out and express ourselves, the good, the bad, and the ugly, the more good it's going to do overall for our community and beyond. And that's why I totally appreciate you coming today and talking with me. I hope you had a good time too.
Best time.
Yeah. Okay. And good luck. You're on a great path. The music that you're producing and doing is great. So keep at it.
Thank you so much.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
I'm proud of you.
I'm proud of you.
Oh, thank you. I told you, James is a lovely guy. He really is. He's so sincere. He's so genuine. He's very authentic. And I love how honest he is about himself, right? He's trying to be as real as possible. He's not trying to cover anything up. He's showing all his scars and hoping that that's going to help somebody else. And that's what you should be doing. That's what we should all be doing with our lives. All of our hurts and hangups and pain, everything that we've gone through, we can use it for good. We really can. And I love the fact that James is trying to do so with what he's been through so far. Now, here's an update on what he's been up to. He just released a new album called Castles. So that just came out recently. And he's getting ready to release more music. And he'll also be releasing a new music video called Liar this month, with the names of all his patrons who supported him during a specific time. So yeah, so he's on fire. He's just continuing to pump out the music and doing some great stuff. So I'm so glad to hear that he's doing what he loves, making music, right? So thank you, James. Hope you're well, and hope I get to see you face to face at some point. But for all of you out there, you guys stay safe as well. Thanks for the support. Please go to the YouTube channel, The Mei Lee Show, and subscribe if you haven't already, or just give me a review or a comment, or go to any podcast platform like Apple, Spotify, Google, any of the major ones, and you can listen to the podcast that way. And leave us a review, or at least just give us a rating on Apple Podcasts. It's really, really helpful when you do that because people pay attention to that, and it helps the show kind of get, you know, more listeners, more followers. You know, that's the way it works. Okay, hey, look, there's Eggie. Look at that, peering through the micro. Look at that. Isn't that funny? She knows exactly where to sit so that she'll be on camera. Okay. All right, guys. You guys take care. Like I said, I might be taking just a tiny little bit of a break just to rejuvenate and recharge my batteries. All right. But you will be hearing from me soon. Until then, take care.